All right. Hello and welcome everyone to the Devstream 167 breakdown. So, we got quite a bit of news this Devstream, but we have one big, primary, very negative piece of news, and that is that once again, Diviri has been delayed. So, we are going to be getting a deep dive stream into that in February instead of this one, because it was supposed to be in January before. And we have an interim update again that is going to be very similar to the Varuna update to fill time before Diviri finally comes out. Before, I was being very optimistic that we were going to see Diviri probably early March or late February. But because we have Stardays happening on the 1st and our interim update is hopefully coming out in February, I would say it's probably actually going to be very optimistic to look at the end of March for Diviri actually coming out, and probably more realistic is going to be like the middle of April, which is very unfortunate. Obviously, those dates that I said it might come out are speculative, and it could be sooner and it could be later. But Diviri is delayed again, very unfortunately. Of course, I want it to be good, so whatever it takes to do that, but I think it was 2017 when it got announced, and it's just, it's the whole, I'll see you guys in 2024. Anyway, moving on. Stardays is going to be back on February 1st. That is going to include some new glyphs and some new emotes. This also notably is the event that returns with the Angel Wings. So those of you looking for that ephemera, that is where that comes from. So that will be back on the 1st. Also, we got our Warframe stats for 2022, which is very interesting. So we have all 3 years here available on the site. That's also linked in the notes. Also, if you'd like to follow along with the notes are on brozime.com. Also, there's a direct link in the description if you'd like to use that, which will take you directly to the particular note. But if you want to go over any of my previous dev streams or any of my Warframe builds or anything else, everything is on the site. But we have the 2022 year in review. I'm going to do a much deeper dive on this, absolutely, because there's going to be a lot of information we can glean from this. But main things of note, our top most used frames, still Wukong, but Wukong has lost a percentage of usage, and considering they got nerfed a bit into the year, that is, showing some signs of slowing down. Wisp is our number 2 now, which is even more popular than Excalibur. And then we have Excal, Volt Prime, Saren Prime, Mesa Prime, who has actually lost about a percentage of usage, which is a bit surprising, but probably good. And then, very surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, we have Umbra. And then, very surprisingly, we have Octavia Prime. Octavia has gained a lot between 2021 and 2022, because if we look here, Octavia Prime was, well, I guess this is down at 2.3. It's not that much more, but I think it just looks like more just because of the way that the numbers have climbed down from Wukong being just so insanely used in 2021, being over 10%, which just makes everything look ridiculous. And also just look with a number of closer frames up here, I suppose. Still, everything seems to be getting closer together, which is, ideal for balance, realistically. And there's going to be a lot that we can learn from this. Just upon just really cursory overview, the thing that we noticed on stream that I want to mention, because I think it's funny, is if we look at melee weapons, Master Ranks combined, we have the Zorus, the Broken War, and the Glaive Prime, with the Zorus being the most used, which is obviously very fair, because the Zorus is like the best thing a new player can get, and it's the best thing they're going to have for a long time once they get it. But if we look at the heat maps, I found something to be very, very interesting. If we look at the Zorus, come on now. If we look at the Zorus, you can see across the MRs, of course, you can't get it until you're MR4. We get like 10%, 23%, 21%, 19%, so on and so forth, up until it's beginning to peter out around like the 12, 13, 14, 15 range is when the Zorus starts to fall off and you see these much lower percentages come in. However, if you look at the Glaive Prime, you will notice that we appear to have a pipeline where the Glaive Prime, right here, the Glaive Prime is very, very low up until the 12, 13, 14 range, and then continues to climb all the way up to MR32 at 11% usage. The Glaive Prime being very obviously the best melee weapon in the game. It is a very clean cut. You get the Zorus, and then you get the Glaive Prime, as those are like the 2 melee weapons and like the builds are so easy to put together for both of them. It is just such a clean transition from one to the other, and I found that to be kind of funny that it is just so represented in the data that is what so many people are doing. But yeah, that's just some interesting stuff to look at in here. Plenty of different things like we can see for secondary weapons. Kuva Nukor still very much in the lead with the Latum as a hefty amount of the representation here at almost 10%. Of course, I think the Latum is a very healthy weapon for the game just in terms of its mechanics and stuff. It is very strong, but it's also like in a category of weapon where there are not a lot of good secondary weapons. So you need to be one of the few good ones in order to kind of make it to the top of the pile here. As you can see, we very quickly start to get weapons like the regular Atamos, and like this is like number, what is this, 11? Yeah, the number 11 is the Atamos. Like there's not a huge wealth of very powerful secondaries to choose from, so the few that we have really easily make up the top here. Like, I mean, regular Lex Prime is this far up in the usage, and it's been ages since that weapon has been a good one. But yeah, primary weapons, very similar story. Notably, a lot of the AoE weapons got nerfed, so we might see some changes here. I'd be interested to see like a difference in usage from the before and after for when those nerfs happened, on if like the percentage drop off on say like the Kuvazar was pretty considerable after that point. Obviously, it was being used quite a lot before those nerfs came in. But yeah, super interesting stuff. Love to see the data. Great stuff. We'll be diving way more into that later. Moving on, we have Citrine's Last Wish. Citrine is the new Warframe. If you're on the site, it'll be worth it. You can right-click this and open in a new tab if you want to get a really nice look at her. She's kind of like a cool geode Warframe. Neat conceptually. We did not see any powers, but we know very roughly that she is a support frame that leans more all-rounder. And I've never heard anything that describes a Wisp more accurately than that, so that screams this frame will be good to me. Hopefully I'm right. With that, we know she's going to get 2 signature weapons. She's going to get the Chorophel, which is a heavy scythe that turns into a gun. And hopefully that's good, because it looks really cool. Then we have the Stelphos, which is a Plasmor-style shotgun that seems to be status-focused. So it might be kind of a halfway point between an Archiplasmor and maybe like a Phantasma, which sounds really good, because both of those weapons are excellent. And then, to get all of these things, we're going to have a variant game mode. We're going to be getting Mirror Defense. We do not know basically anything about Mirror Defense, other than that it is going to take place on the Viver map. And something about the Viver map only being like a third of the gameplay bits. Honestly, hopefully it's just got good spawns. I'm just really, really hoping that we don't get Viver, except for there's 2 other gigantic rooms on either side where the enemies have to walk 10,000 miles to get to your defense objective, because that sucks. And that's how all the Corpus defenses are now. Everything just spawns 100,000 miles away, and you have to wait, and it's awful. So hopefully Mirror Defense is a mirror of how terrible defense has become and gotten worse over the years, and is not just literally more of that. On the plus side, we are going to be getting vendor-style acquisition from Otak. He is the minerals mining boy, and he's going to be giving us, similar to how Yanta is for the new survival, she's our vendor. We're going to get 2 new Warframe Arcanes, 1 secondary arcane and 1 primary arcane. Hopefully these fare better than the arcanes that we get from Yanta, as those were very miss and pretty much no hit. But, 4 more tries at it, and we recently got all the arcanes that came with the Zaramon showing up, and pretty much all of those were good, even though one of them got nerfed very severely. But yeah, you're going to be getting all those, and then both signature weapons and also Citrine from those vendor-style rewards from Otak. Assumably, they'll be the same as Varuna, where you can also get them from rotation rewards in order to save on the currency we're going to be getting. Other than that, drifters are getting face paint / tattoos. So instead of like the void touch stuff you can get on the operators, they are going to have just customizable face paint and things of that nature. That is going to be coming. And then we are going to be getting the Ember Void Shell. It's the regular Ember skin, but Void Shell, as the other Void Shells have been. Still really disappointed that it's not the Prime getting a Void Shell. And because I like, pretty much in all cases, I like the Prime design better for the frame, so it's unfortunate to have to go back to the regular. And also, we're getting Rhino Deluxe. Rhino Deluxe looks very cool. It is a really, really cool skin. He is a big bad Beetleborg, and it is super fun. Like, we did not get to see how the iron skin is going to look on it. Hopefully that doesn't just cover the whole skin up because it looks awesome. Also really hoping, though they didn't say anything about it, that maybe this would come with some quality of life tweaks for Rhino, as Rhino is kind of, just as I said in my roster review, kind of falling behind a lot of other Warframes that do similar things to him, especially whenever those frames can just take roar for themselves, albeit at a lower power strength. But yeah, this skin is super cool. It will probably be like the Rhino skin that I will use going forward based on how it looks. And it just makes me want some Rhino changes that kind of bring him back up to the forefront up there with like Nezha and Revenant and so on and so forth. Also, speaking of things that are going to bring some frames up, we have new augments. We have an augment for Gara. This is an augment for her 4 that makes it so that whenever you shatter your 4 by casting your 4 and then using your 1, it is going to put your 2 on everything it hits when it's broken. And this is an absolutely incredible augment. This is exactly what Gara needed. This is coming alongside Gara's 4 getting a quality of life change, which is that now you don't have to be outside of her circle in order to get the effect that it would have on the outside. Now, both sides, no matter which side you break it from, will have the same effect. This means 2 things. Number 1, you're going to be able to stack up your damage on your 2 extremely fast, and you're going to get the refresh much like quicker. You're just gonna be able to do that, deal damage, refresh everything. That's gonna be with her augment because ostensibly this will also do a refresh whenever you shatter everything. This also, because it's gonna put it on enemies and also put it on all of your allies, this is gonna be a great support ability that is also gonna make it so that her 4 can kind of cascade up in damage and reach higher levels. And paired with an armor strip, it might actually be a very effective option for DPSing high level maps. Be extremely curious to see where this goes for Gara. This can open up a lot of options for her, and the quality of life change going along with it is just spectacular. So I think that this is going to be great. I would be surprised if it's bad, honestly, because conceptually, super good. And on the complete and total opposite end, Ureli is getting an augment that makes her Sea Snares heal Marolina. No one cares. In quality of life updates, Ureli's Marolina is now going to absorb 90% damage instead of, I believe it's 75% currently. So that's a considerable amount more damage reduction. That's nice. Hopefully Ureli will die less. But in terms of the Sea Snares thing, like, we're just replacing Sea Snares with Gloom. Like, no contest, like, you're putting Gloom on over Sea Snares. Like, you're not bothering to use Sea Snares. There's, like, no reason to do so. And then Geyer is getting an augment that can potentially fix her. This is Cathode Current. A shock releases when Geyer eliminates an enemy while Cathode Grace is active. The shock has bonus strength from Rotor Swell, and its duration extends by the same amount. So this could allow her to scale up and be able to kill high-level enemies. Honestly, though, this is something that I don't want to be an augment. This is something that should probably come as a fix for Geyer to make her work in higher-level content, because as it stands right now, after her 4 got nerfed with a fix, to make it so people didn't crash while playing her, she kind of needed a bit of a rework to make her function, and if this augment is the thing that makes her function, it really, really should be built in. Ureli was the same story, where we got Ureli's initial augment for her 3 that gave her a playstyle and made it so her 3 was a worthwhile ability to ever cast. And that being the thing where you're fixing the frame with an augment just is not good. Like, Ureli's 3 augment should be built in so that she has a real defined playstyle by default, and then an augment should change that playstyle or offer a new playstyle. Frames that don't have really anything to be doing and, like, no cohesiveness to them, having an augment fix them just makes them a frame that has 1 less slot in their build. They're just a 7-slot frame instead of a full 8-slot frame like we're used to getting. And that is really unfortunate and concerning. But yeah, that's what's up with Geyer. Hopefully this can fix her, because, I mean, even if you have to dock a mod slot for it, having a frame that works is better than having one that doesn't. And speaking of a frame that works and doesn't need this, Revenant is getting a Mesmer skin augment that allows his nearby allies to acquire Mesmer skin when he casts it, and it will also give Revenant plus some % of strength for his Mesmer skin. This is immediately insanely good. I think that Revenant is easily the best tank in the game right now, and him having the ability to make his teammates survive with his ability, which is the best tanking skill in the game, is incredibly, incredibly good. I will almost certainly no contest be equipping this on my Revenant in the place of Augur Secrets. Probably going to be insanely good, even if it only gives a couple charges to allies. If it gives as much strength as Augur Secrets, it's probably definitely worth it. And if it gives a little less, like being able to give your Mesmer Skin to your allies is probably a good enough bonus to swap out just a little bit. But yeah, really good stuff for Revenant. I think in terms of these augments, we have Garas and Revenants, which are almost certainly going to be slam dunks and immediately used in builds. And Gyres, I am hoping is going to be good. And if we get 75% of like the 4 new augments are great and we're going to use them a bunch, that's awesome. Moving on, we have a couple other quality of life changes, including a big one that everyone's been waiting for, and that is TAUFORGED Archon Shards, getting more of them. So now, whenever you complete a Archon hunt, you have that initial base 20% chance in order to get a TAUFORGED Shard from that mission. If you don't get a TAUFORGED Shard from that mission, you will then have a 20% additional chance to get a TAUFORGED the next time. Now the question is, what does the next time mean? We don't have an answer to that yet. I did reach out to Pablo on Twitter, but unfortunately did not get a response. So I'm just going to go over both scenarios and why one is definitely better than the other and hopefully what we get. So in the case where you have that initial 20% chance and you're going to get 20% more, and it is not tracked individually for the Tau shards, meaning that, say you start on the blue week, and you have a 20% chance to get a Tau Forged. You do the blue mission, and you don't get a Tau Forged. And then that means that next week, on the yellow shard mission, you have a 40% chance. And if you don't get it, you go to the red shard mission, you have a 60% chance. And then you don't get it, and you go back to blue, 80%, and then you would 100% get a Tau Forged on the following, because it goes all the way up to 100%. In that scenario where the pity works without individually tracking for each different shard, you will be in this scenario. You will be at a 20% chance and do your blue Tau shard mission because you're at the bottom percent chance. And then you will go to your yellow shard mission, but you want red Tau shards. So if you get the yellow Tau shard, you will have a lower chance to get the red one, which is the one you want. Therefore, you don't do that weekly mission for a yellow shard and instead move directly to the red one for a 40% chance, and then you don't get it. And then you don't do the next 2 weeks of TAUFORGED shards because you don't want a blue one and you don't want a yellow one, and you want a 60% chance of hitting the red one when you get back around to it. This creates a situation where people are simply not going to do the Archon missions on many weeks, mostly blue ones. And that is a complete failure of a change, because all it is doing is subbing out one problem for another. The current problem is that you can't get Tau shards consistently, and it's a crapshoot and completely random up to the 20% chance for you to ever get a TAUFORGED shard. Many people have done every single week so far and gotten 0. And many people have like 1 after this many weeks of it being out. And that's obviously not good, and they're looking to fix that, which I applaud. However, this system will just make it so people just play less, which is objectively against the baseline thing that you want with a weekly, which is for people to come back for it. So the solution is to simply have it track for all 3 different shards. You do the blue week, it's 20% chance. You don't get it, goes to 40. When you get back to it the next time, it's blue. So that would also mean you very consistently will get 1 of each, at least, TAUFORGED shard every 15 weeks. Obviously, due to like the way chances are weighted, it's probably more likely you're going to get 2 of each shard every 15 weeks. But 15 weeks is also almost 4 months. So I think that's quite fair. And it also would mean that you never have a reason to skip a week. You want to do it every single week, because you are going to be getting each of the TAUFORGED shards. And even if you don't really want blue, if they ever change blue in the future, you'll have wanted to be doing it so you have the TAUFORGED of at least 5 of them to be kept up with it. If they added range to blues tomorrow, you'd have wanted those 5 TAUFORGED blue shards in advance of that. So there's at least some consideration there, and just making it so that we get this pity system, which I think is good, but making it work towards making people want to play is important. That's how I feel about that. But yeah, if it is not tracked individually, I think it is going to be hugely problematic for people wanting to play the Archon game mode. I know for me personally, I would be skipping every blue week going forward where it's not a 20% chance, which is not what I want to be doing. I would like to be doing this every week. I like doing the missions. It's a nice thing to just like hop on and get done and do. But yeah, being incentivized to not run it is like the exact opposite of what the system is for. Moving on, very lightly, cold status. Cold status is getting some buffs. It's going to be buffed to start at a 50% slow from a 25% slow and max out at 85 instead of, I believe it was 70, which is fine. It's also getting some quicker scaling because max stacks is now going to be 8 instead of 10. All in all, this doesn't really matter. Like, this isn't going to make anyone use cold status anymore. If anything, the place where this will actually matter is going to be on a free-to-play through where they give you Northwind for the Mark 1 bow really early. And usually you're running just cold only on that thing for a good chunk of the early game. So starting at 50% slow instead of 25% slow is going to matter for extremely new players that know what they're doing, of which there are going to be very few probably. So that's probably the area that this is going to matter most. And at actual, like, you know, super far in higher level gameplay, this will absolutely not matter at all. The number one thing that damage types need to do is more damage. I know that sounds really obvious when I say it that way, but that really is the long and the short of it. And this does not do that. Also, it's unlikely that it's going to work on any enemy that would matter anyway, as they're all like CC immune, status immune, yada, yada, yada. So it won't really end up mattering probably at all. Also, cross-save still being worked on for 2023. Not really anything else to mention about that. I personally am of the optimistic opinion. I think that we are going to get cross-save dropped at TennoCon this year, which is about halfway through the year. That's when I think it would happen. I think that would be like a huge pop-off, and if they can manage to get it for TennoCon, I think they definitely would shoot for that and do that. But yeah, that's what's up with the Devstream breakdown. Pretty unfortunate. I think Citrine's design looks cool. I think this deluxe looks cool. I hope the game mode's good. The augments good, or the arcanes can be good. The augments look good. There's definitely going to be some stuff to do, but we are still firmly placed in the Diviri waiting room. Thanks all for watching the video. I'm going to be over at twitch.tv/Brozime playing some games tonight, so come hang out. And that's going to do it for the video. Thanks all, and see you in the stream tonight, hopefully. Goodbye. All right, it's the start of a new year, and thank you very much to all of my current patrons for supporting me, especially now that the tier list is out, and I went through some troubles getting it done. But thank you very much to Brutus Salazar, Dylan Dworsky, Ethrain, Jacob Bean, James Harthorne, JC4Science, Jefferson Clark, Joshua Adams, Luzanth, Malik X. Williams, Metrozanka, Mitchta, Nicholas Gridley, Paradise, Shan Harding, and Zach Zahner for being my super patrons. And thank you very, very much to all of my $5 and $2 patrons as well. It is hugely appreciated in support for the channel and, of course, for the site, which is going to be receiving many more updates now that the major tier list is done. There's a lot more work to be, added and done to the site. But thanks so much for your support, everybody. Much appreciated, and hope you enjoyed this year's tier list.